Hello everybody, welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel, September 4th, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the last couple of days, we've seen an increase in earthquake activity right down here in this corner of Idaho. It's not very far from Yellowstone. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the satellite view so you can get a better look at what is going on. And then I'm going to show you the concern. Now here we have the massive Yellowstone caldera. We all know what destruction can occur if this were to erupt. Now I'm going to zoom in here, and all of this activity is occurring in an area called Soda Springs. We're going to move in just a little bit closer here so you can see what exactly is occurring. Now, just 17 hours ago, we had a magnitude 4.5. It was very shallow, only a depth of 7 kilometers. 4 hours ago, another magnitude 4.3. Once again, very shallow, less than 4 kilometers deep. Now folks, this has been occurring over the course of the last 48 hours. And to be quite frank with you, earthquake activity in this area, it's just not prominent. It's just not something that they see consistently, like areas of California, for instance, and the Pacific Northwest over there in Washington. But to see earthquakes of this magnitude, it causes great concern. Now I'm going to switch back. And I want you to see, here is the Yellowstone caldera region, right here in the corner of Wyoming. You can see the distance. It's not very far. But then you say, well, what is the big concern? Well, here is the big concern. Not too long ago, students at the University of Utah and scientists discovered another massive magma plume under Yellowstone National Park. This is a 3D cube model that they put together based on their scientific evidence and what they found. Now, originally, if you pay close attention to this red region, this was the magma plume, the magma chamber that was discovered a long time ago. Scientists knew that was there. Then, as further research occurred, this is the monster they found below the original magma chamber. I believe in the report they state that it is 4 times the size of the original magma chamber. That is of great concern. Reason being, and let me just flip back to the map. That magma chamber extends this way, here in this region. So when we're seeing earthquake activity in this region, right dead center, Soda Springs, Idaho, it is of great concern. And also something that is of concern is the depth. These are very close, near the surface earthquakes. Now, that only tells me one thing, is that the surface area near Soda Springs seems to be expanding. Now, folks, up here in the Yellowstone region, they are constantly examining the rise and fall of the land up here in Yellowstone. Oops, let's back up here a little bit. They're constantly gauging the land. Basically, it's almost like a breathing movement. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And that's what the land does up here. It expands, it contracts. It expands, it contracts. But now, folks, to see something like this right above the other magma chamber, and I'm talking about this magma chamber right here, this is of great concern. Now, something that's been occurring as of lately is, once again, more activity on our sun. And whenever we have these coronal holes on our sun and the Earth is facing the solar wind, these heavily charged particles, they impact the Earth. They penetrate all the way to the core of the Earth. And there is scientific data that does state that this penetration of these heavily charged particles, they do heat up the core of the Earth, causing the Earth to expand and contract, expand and contract. And this has everything to do with our tectonic plates. The tectonic plates that basically make up the shell of our planet. And as you can see, this is the current 48-hour loop of the Solar Dynamics Observatory, as we refer to it, the SDO. Very, very large sunspot. I believe this is sunspot 2674, if I'm not mistaken. There was also a very large coronal mass ejection over here to the right side of the sun. More activity over here. And you see this dark region right here. Now, this is from the very, very large coronal mass ejection that occurred at the end of July. That was also of great concern. I'm going to go ahead and show you these coronal holes real quick. This black region right here, you can see another one opening up here, which will be Earth facing. You can see all of the sunspots and their activities, the solar flaring. And right over here, you're going to see the corona of the sun kind of buffer. And that was the release of that coronal mass ejection. Now, that was not Earth facing, nothing that we need to be concerned about. However, as this very large sunspot turns towards the Earth, well, that is of a concern. Any type of coronal mass ejection facing the Earth dead on would be, like I said, a big concern. The heavily charged particles that create the solar wind, well, they come from these big coronal holes. There is another coronal hole underlying right here, which would only be able to be seen on the X-ray from the GOES satellite. And I could show that to you, but you can clearly see the darker area. Solar wind will come from this area. And again, we have a small coronal hole opening up here, which will affect Earth. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that. Just getting back to these regions of the sun. This gives you a better, clear view of what happened to the sun whenever we had that large coronal mass ejection at the end of July. It basically left a scar, a large blemish on the front face of the sun facing our planet right now. And you can clearly see over here the coronal mass ejection from the other day. You'll see it. You'll see it as it buffers the corona. Now, this is the solar wind predictor model. All of you have seen this before. What I want you to pay very close attention to, and I'm just going to go ahead and stop this and slide it myself. Here's the Earth right here. Here's our dates. September 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way through the 9th. Here's the sun, right where my cursor is. You could already see a stream of solar wind coming from the sun. We're going to slide this very slowly, and we're going to show you when the impact will occur. So on about the 6th of September, you're going to see the Earth is right at the beginning stages of this solar wind stream. What's very bothersome is once we get through this phase around the 7th, we're going to be entering into this very, very long period of solar wind. Just pay very close attention as I move the slider forward. One day through September 8th, we're still in it. Now we're on the outskirts of it, but the majority of our planet will be inside of this solar wind stream. Now as I move towards the 9th, and then the model ends, by September 9th, folks, you could already see that we are only halfway through this solar wind stream. These particles usually take several days to penetrate all the way through to the Earth's core. Usually whenever we get hit by waves of the solar wind, if you pay very close attention right here, it's usually a wide stream like this, and it passes by within a matter of 12 hours to 24 hours. But whenever we're in an elongated solar wind stream such as this, it's going to last for days. So I'm just going to back up. So we're beginning here on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and then the model ends on the 9th. Now within 12 hours or so, this will be updated to possibly show us the 10th and 11th, maybe even the 12th. But you can clearly see that we will be involved for another 48 hours in this solar wind stream. That's going to increase the possibilities in the days to come for earthquake activity. And we've already seen a considerable amount of magnitudes in the high 4s and 5s. And this is not going to end, folks. This is going to be with us for quite some time. Now, this is from the Cactus coronagraph. And this is showing you the coronal mass ejection that occurred the other day. And this was on the right side of the sun. This was not Earth facing. But that's a pretty healthy CME. As you can see, if that was Earth facing, well, we would have definitely had some serious problems. Now, something like this is not going to wipe out the globe, but it would create some very serious situations on our planet. That's why we pay very close attention to it. Getting back to our earthquake map. As you can see, once again, a lot of earthquake activity, and not all of the earthquakes are on this map. Once again, down in the South Pacific, in Fiji, very deep earthquakes, magnitude 4.5, but 527 kilometers deep. Folks, that's very deep. Once again, over here in Chile, magnitude 4.2, 112 kilometers deep. Down here in the Sandwich Islands, magnitude 5, shallow, 35 kilometers deep. We've also seen a considerable amount of earthquake activity over here in the Caribbean around Puerto Rico and the Leeward and Windward Islands. Most of the earthquake activity has been removed from this map, but it still continues. Now, there's smaller earthquakes, but when you see swarms of these earthquakes, that's something that you have to pay very close attention to. 6 hours ago, magnitude 5, Northern Mariana Islands. And just the other day, a couple of earthquakes right down here in Australia. So folks, the fact of the matter is, paying very close attention to what is happening at Yellowstone. Well, listen, there's nothing we can do to prevent it. But knowing that the situation is there, knowing what is happening, will give you a chance to prepare and to keep an eye on the information. Now, that's the biggest thing that, well, I would suggest that you do, is pay very close attention to the information. Folks, you're not going to see this on your daily news and your local news. They're just not going to talk about it. This is a very serious situation here in this region of Yellowstone, even though it's about 150 miles south of Yellowstone down in Idaho. But going down towards that area, folks, this is where this major magma chamber lies. It could potentially be a very dangerous situation, especially with coronal holes and the solar wind impacting our Earth for that many days consistently. Not one day, not two, but possibly 3, 4, or 5 straight days of a steady solar wind stream, engulfing our planet for days. And this will definitely create a lot of unrest with our tectonic plates and earthquake regions around the globe. Just a heads up, folks, this is what's in store. Let's hope, let's pray that this sleeping giant that we call Yellowstone stays asleep. This is Scott from Planet X News and the Nibiru channel, September 4th, 2017. Thank you for watching.